there's kind of different levels to this, and the people that get to hundreds of thousands of pounds per month, they are doing things slightly differently.
That seems to come up time and time again when I ask people about the mindset of the highest achievers, whether that's in dropshipping, e-commerce businesses, or actually any walk of life.
And so that's the mindset that we see our top achieving members embrace. It's that continuous learning.
Yeah, it's all about leverage. We've all got the same amount of time in the day. So as soon as you make your business completely rely on you, then it's only one person's day that can push that business forward.
As always, this stuff often comes back to mindset when you ask, like, what are the secrets? They're not doing anything. They're not using any hidden apps that you don't know about or putting any clever code on their website that suddenly makes them successful.
When people get their families on board with their goals, it really helps them. And I know definitely in your story that it pushed you on to success.
I think that's one of the biggest skills or hacks or secrets to being successful in any venture is if Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked Podcast, your key to unlocking the secrets of high-ticket dropshipping. I'm Lewis Smith, founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Eardley. Now, when we're not recording podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. So if you're ready to learn how to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business, pick up a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, whether you're looking to replace your income or launch a side hustle. I wrote this book as a roadmap to help you launch a low-maintenance, high-profit e-commerce business that gives you the freedom to spend more time with your family, travel the world, and work on your own terms. Ready to join us? Visit htabook.com to get your copy today. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly climb to the top, while others seem to struggle to get off the ground? Well, after witnessing the success of many Dropship Unlocked Masterclass members, it's clear to us that success leaves clues, and it's not just skill or luck or talent that these people come with. In fact, it's a mindset and a series of actions that anyone can adopt. So if you've ever felt stuck and you don't know how to make your business aspirations come to life, well, this is the episode for you today. So Lewis, let's kick things off with the mindset that our top achievers seem to have. What do you see in common about the mindset of our top achievers?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting topic and one that I'm keen to dive into because I think there are a lot of commonalities and common traits between our top achievers and perhaps someone who maybe just, replaces their income, which is still a level of achievement, but there's kind of different levels to this. And the people that get to hundreds of thousands of pounds per month, they are doing things slightly differently. And so I think the primary things that it comes down to is always back to the mindset. It's always back to what attitude did they come into this with? Because the top achievers and maybe like the middle achievers end up often starting with the same background, the same lack of prior knowledge about e-commerce. So it's not like a skills thing that they came into this with more than other people. But the thing that is different is how they approach it in terms of how they see challenges as opportunities, not setbacks. The growth mindset that we've talked about in previous episodes. They view the challenges that they come up against like puzzles to be solved, not roadblocks. And that's important because they enjoy the process of then solving those puzzles. And I think that's one of the biggest skills or hacks or secrets to being successful in any venture is if you can enjoy the journey and the process and really embrace that and enjoy the build. Like I know I love the build and the challenge of growing a business, then that can become amazing because you're not just slogging away so that you eventually get an end result and can get to this mythical mirage of a destination that actually never exists because you're just always on a journey. So I remember with my very first store, I started an e-commerce store and I wanted to sell these organic like beeswax candles, or I think it was actually soy wax. I think beeswax was so expensive we said, okay, we'll do soy wax instead. It was like eco-friendly, nice candles, and we thought there'd be a great market for it. So I was really excited about it. And, I'd never run a business before, no idea, still working my job. And I had this vision of what I wanted the business to be like. But I was hitting a lot of puzzles, right? A lot of obstacles and challenges. And luckily, I hit these questions, these problems early on before I plowed loads of money into the business. So I was maybe looking around and using a profit calculator to figure out how much profit was I going to make on each one of these sales. And with that amount of profit, how much could I then acquire sales for once I've accounted for the VAT, once I've then paid the ad acquisition cost on the ad channels. And I realized that, okay, it's going to be quite like razor thin margins here. And I wanted a lower volume of orders as well. I didn't want to just like start a store and then have thousands of orders and no team to fulfill any of them and all of these complaints and questions and potential issues. And so after a while, I realized that the numbers probably weren't in my favor for this. So I decided to pivot. I kept an open mind. I kept that growth mindset and thought, this is just another puzzle that's been thrown my way. And I'm going to keep my enthusiasm high for e-commerce and building a brand. But instead, I'm going to pivot and actually sell higher ticket, higher profit, low maintenance items. So think things like high-end furniture or outdoor kitchens and grills, or things like luxury kitchen, bathroom fixtures, stuff that could be products upwards of £1,000, £2,000, where maybe one sale per day nets you £600 in profit. You'd have to sell a lot of candles to achieve that, right? And you've got one order to fulfill, one customer to keep happy. And so if I try to pinpoint and zoom out of that, what do I think the lesson was there? I think it was the openness and willingness to pivot that gave me such an advantage later on in business, because I wasn't so closed off to the idea of changing the types of product and the type of business model that I went after. I didn't just fixate on the products, on the candles idea in this case for me, and just close everything else off. And I'm sure I could have made that work, but I would have come up against a lot more obstacles later on. So sometimes it's just good to look at the data, look at the numbers, look at the, supplier availability, the profit margins, the delivery, and just make a strategic decision and say, okay, based on the lessons that other people have learned before me, I am happy to pivot here because I want to take the path of least resistance to make this first venture work. So many businesses go out of business in the first few years because they just try and do everything their own way and they don't heed the lessons from those that came before them. And so that's the mindset that we see our top achieving members embrace. It's that continuous learning, never assuming that they know it all, and just being willing to pivot if they need to.
Yeah, completely agree. Having that humility to see a mistake for what it is, not let it completely put you off that venture that you're going down, and using it actually as a learning lesson and celebrate that failure. That seems to come up time and time again when I ask people about the mindset of the highest achievers, whether that's in dropshipping, e-commerce businesses, or actually any walk of life, being able to celebrate failures and keep pushing on. I completely agree. And the lesson that you pulled out of your story, I agree with the best lesson to take, is that the high achievers, they see when things go wrong, they pivot and they do something different, and then they grow from that position. Other people that aren't so successful, or maybe it takes them longer, is they see a failure happen and then they write things off, or they catastrophize that whole event being something that they can't ever recover from. And now you've gone on to do £5 million almost of sales with your e-commerce store. So if you'd never have learned that lesson, you would have never got to the position you're at now. I'm so glad you brought that out as the lesson that you pulled out of that whole sort of that event that happened for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing that I noticed that's a common trait is resilience. But this is an interesting one because, yes, it's great to be able to bounce back from failures with determination and say, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go at it. But if you hit a wall, don't just keep charging at the same wall. See if there's a way over the wall. See if there's a path around it. See if there's a tunnel under it. Like, figure out your way past that obstacle. And it doesn't just have to be, no, I'm going to just do this until I go broke and go bankrupt and keep plowing money into it because I'm going to make it work. Like, there's no pride in doing that. There's no benefit to doing that necessarily. So the flexibility and adaptability in mindset are two traits that serve our most successful members very well, but also being willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence is key as well. So yes, you have to be resilient, but you can be resilient in terms of the whole business model. So like for me, I said, I still want to make e-commerce work and I still want to build a brand, but I didn't fixate on the products that I thought, actually, this is going to cause me a lot of problems, be very unprofitable, like very low profit, and just potentially cause a lot more headaches further down the line. So as always, this stuff often comes back to mindset when you ask, like, what are the secrets? They're not doing anything. They're not using any hidden apps that you don't know about or putting any clever code on their website that suddenly makes them successful. It's all to do with the mindset, because remember, they came in with exactly the same as maybe the people that just do moderately well and just replace their basic income, which for some people, that's okay. I'm not saying that's not a admirable goal, but for some people, they realize they can take it a lot further. And so, yeah, if you love talk about mindsets, if you want to dive deeper into our thoughts on how important it is to develop a growth mindset, then check out episode 7 of the Dropship Unlocked podcast, where we discuss the 7 mindset shifts that will change your life forever.
That was a great conversation. And I think it's so empowering that we talk about mindset straight away as the main reason why we see the top achievers achieve what they do, because it's something that people can adopt. It's not like they have this innate talent or they've got some advantage that others can't have. With mindset, absolutely everyone will come in with a different mindset, but you can switch the mindset that you have. You can learn to develop an entrepreneur's mindset so that when you have any obstacles, your mindset will kick in and know that that is a learning opportunity that you can learn from. So it's empowering. It's not something that you should take any power away from anyone. That's why I believe that these habits and this mindset that we're talking about today can be adopted by anyone so that they can achieve exactly what our top achievers have achieved as well. So closely linked to the mindset that the top achievers have, they've also, what we've noticed is they've got a certain way about goal setting and how they go after the goals that they want to achieve. What have you noticed? There's some commonalities of goal setting for the highest achievers.
Well, having very clear goals initially is the first thing. Sounds obvious, but so many people just say, oh yeah, no, my goal is to succeed in business. And you think, well, what does that even mean? How do you determine whether you succeeded? So you need a clear, actionable goal. And it's like, an architect who's going to build a house, they always start with the blueprint. It's written down first. It's a clear, written down goal that's drawn. And then they can meticulously plan each step. But it doesn't end there, because to create the house, you then need to take action. So in e-commerce, it's the same. When the build process begins, they take action, they implement the plan that they wrote down initially. They don't just keep planning and researching for the sake of it and delaying that action. That's something that we do see people do sometimes, which is usually it's procrastination based out of fear, because they're getting in their own way because there's something they don't want to do. Maybe they don't want to approach suppliers, or they don't want to. Sometimes people are fearful of succeeding and suddenly having loads of money coming in and being like, I don't know, it doesn't match my identity, because they never had that vision in the first place of them as that person with lots of money. So it's very interesting how this all kind of ties together. But yeah, our top achievers visualize not just the end goal, but also just the steps to get there along the way as well. They embrace, and as I was just talking about, they enjoy the actual journey, the process of it as well. The amount of members, and you'll see this as well in our Dropship Unlocked masterclass community, who say things like, and we literally get this kind of post every day, just signed my 4th or 5th or 6th supplier. I've got 100 more products now to upload to my store. Can't wait to get into uploading the products and get my ads live. That kind of post tells us that they're not just saying, finally got my 5th supplier signed, can't wait until I've earned a load of money and I finally can check the box that I've succeeded. They're excited about the process of uploading the products, of running the ads, because it's the build, it's the knowledge that they are immersing themselves in that they enjoy so much. So that's a secret thing that I think so many people fail to see. It's not where you're going, but it's the path to get there that's the most enjoyable bit.
Yeah, it's all about breaking down an initial big goal that they've set very clearly for themselves into smaller goals where they can see the progress they're making on a day-to-day basis. If you set the goal, like you said before, of just succeed in business, how do you know when you achieve that? Whereas the most successful people have a clear goal and they break that down crucially into actions they can take every day.
Yeah, exactly. So that's on like a day-to-day basis. I think the other thing is they do have to have those long-term clear goals visualized. And I always find that it's important to be completely clear at what you're aiming for, because if you're not, how on earth do you expect to ever take the actions required to achieve it? And then with those big goals that are like maybe 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals, it's really important to have regular goal reviews and check-ins as well. And maybe just have something in the calendar that's like, where am I in relation to these goals? And what do I need to adapt to keep me on track and focused? So it's why in week 1 of the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass, we have modules that are really focused on getting you clear on your deep-rooted reason for why you're building this business in the first place. And the reason for that is because later on I've seen when it gets hard, which it will, any business will, so you might as well prepare for it with strong foundations, knowing that it will get hard at some point. It's coming back to that reason why. We call it the destination and the why. And it's about where are you going and why are you doing this in the first place? Because when those obstacles, those puzzles are presented in front of you, that's the thing that will help you have the motivation to be able to navigate around them. And I remember right at the beginning, when I first started my store, I remember saying I would set my ads live on my first store once I had signed my 3rd supplier. That was the target I set myself. So that was like a micro goal. I'm going to sign 3 suppliers. And I knew that I couldn't progress in this business because of my own rule I'd set until I signed 3 suppliers. And I knew that signing suppliers was the thing that I'd probably push away and procrastinate and try to avoid. And so I put that as well, you can't proceed until you've done it. So I baked the goal that I knew I didn't want to do, or I thought I didn't want to do. I have no problem doing it now, but that comes with experience and time. And over the next few days, I went away and called suppliers, I emailed them, and I finally signed up my 3 suppliers. And so after that, I thought, right, I've got the products live now. I was that person that I just said is posting in our community. So I stayed up till midnight for weeks in a row and was just uploading products and getting everything live and ready to go. And then I expanded my goals because the ads were live and I was making my first few sales. So I thought, okay, I want to hit my first £10,000 month. But then with high ticket dropshipping, you very quickly achieve that. If you're selling products at £2,000, you only need 5 sales in a month and you've hit your £10,000 in sales month. So that was something we flew past. Then I thought, okay, I want my first £50,000 month. That's my next goal that I'm aiming for. And then you fly past that. Then it's the next £500,000 mark. And then it's the £1 million mark. And then it's the £1 million per year mark, right? And so even to this day, I'm still on this journey. I'm still expanding my goals all the time. I'm visualizing them. I'm enjoying the process of the journey. And I love the build and the challenge. So I think if you can engineer your entrepreneurial journey in that way, then it doesn't even feel like work because you get to get paid far more than someone who's working a job to do it, but you just enjoy the process and the journey as you go. So for me, it's the best of both worlds.
It is. That's why I love the beautiful game of business, because it's always this ongoing pursuit of the next goal. But at the same time, as well as having that ongoing pursuit and that drive to get to somewhere else, you also need to enjoy the journey that you're on in the moment. And it's beautiful that sort of connection that you've got between the two there, Lewis, where you're always striving, you've got something in mind, you're visualizing the next step, but at the same time, you're not letting yourself get carried away with not being there, and just enjoy the day-to-day tasks that you're taking to get to that point, because that's what really builds the momentum. That's what makes it enjoyable, makes you jump out of bed in the morning so you know you can get to that next goal. Once you've got that lovely connection between the two, I think that's where the real success is made in business, whether that's an e-commerce business or any walk of life. So to be able to achieve those goals that you set, and for any high achievers, time management is crucial. So what do you think the top achievers do in terms of managing their time?
Well, I think they prioritize their tasks, not just based on urgency, but based on impact. Like, what impact is this going to have? Like I said about signing suppliers, I could have said, well, I need to choose the color theme on my website. Perhaps that was urgent because maybe that was a step in setting up the store, but it's not going to impact my business hugely. There are minor things that might be urgent and might need to be done, but actually there are some quite impactful things that if you don't do them, you're not going to move the needle forward on your business. So I think that's a key one. Effective delegation and automation as well to free up time for those high value needle moving activities that we talked about. So things like calling suppliers or getting products uploaded or getting your ads live initially, because you're not going to be making much money until your ads are live, because you're not going to have any traffic coming to your store. So it's just getting to those milestones that's important. So it's at the beginning when you're wearing all of the hats, you're the salesperson, the marketing manager, the SEO person, the customer support rep, you are everyone. There are certain roles in this organization that drive the revenue into the company. And it's the person who signs the suppliers. It's the person who uploads the products, and it's the person who runs the ads. Those are the key things, right? The customer service is great as well, and that will benefit your brand in the long term. But sometimes people will just buy products from your store without even needing customer service. They don't need anyone to speak to. They'll just buy. It's one of the beauties of e-commerce. And so the other reason why I think that's important is because worrying about tweaking other things is something that could come later, and actually you don't even have to worry about it because you can pay people to do it and worry about it and fix it with the money you get from the revenue that comes in from the first steps. So focus on what is going to pay the bills now, because then later you can say, okay, I'll bring in a great web developer to revamp my website, or I'm going to bring in an ad specialist to run our ads, and I'll use some of the profit that we've accumulated to pay their fee to do that and take our business to the next level. So that's a key one. The other thing is knowing how to relinquish control. And so one of the things that our top achievers do that differentiates them is they are not so wedded to their business that they feel only they can do it. As soon as they are able to SOP something, standard operating procedure, create it into a list of steps, and then hand that over to a virtual assistant who you can hire from websites like onlinejobs.ph or even Upwork or Fiverr if you're just starting out, and then give those people the steps to upload the products and the steps to do your customer support, the scripts to answer your phones, the scripts to do your live chat on your site. They can, firstly, that's enjoyable from a lifestyle standpoint because suddenly they have all their free time again. But if they're ambitious, which they usually are, if they're a top achiever, then they'll use that time effectively to either start another business. So we see many of our Dropship Unlocked members have started multiple stores now, or they'll just say, I'm going to take this business to the next level and sign more suppliers and optimize their ads and even like expand internationally if they want to. So it's fascinating to see, but I think you see so many people who get caught in this stage where they are successful, but then they become a victim of their own success because they don't outsource the tasks, and therefore they're just like trapped in a new set of golden handcuffs, not the one from their employer that they've now left because they're earning good money online, but now they're trapped by like their customers, email support tickets coming in from customers and questions about products and calling suppliers and paying suppliers, and like each of these things can be broken down into a list of if this then that statements. So if this happens, then reply with that. If this happens instead, then reply with this. And you just template the whole thing. Yes, it takes 10 times as long doing that as it does doing it yourself, but then you never have to do it yourself again. And that is the magic. I think that's the bit that so many people get right to that brick. You know that image of like the person digging for gold and they get so close and then they just give up at the last minute. Like it's the bit that I wish with some of our members, I'm like, just trust the process and hire the VA because you can afford it now. I think they're just like so precious about their business, they're scared to let go. But when they do, they unlock this whole world of free time and scale as well. So it's great. I know you've built a team as well and know the benefit that comes with that.
Yeah, it's all about leverage. We've all got the same amount of time in the day. So as soon as you make your business completely rely on you, then it's only one person's day that can push that business forward. And as soon as I was able to outsource and put a team in place that handles all of the day-to-day operations, then suddenly you've got all of that time back to put it into the real income-generating tasks that's going to make a difference and to be able to scale your business or start another store and double your income that way. So you have to, at some point, relinquish control. And we notice that with some members, that's very easy to relinquish control. As soon as they notice they're doing something that isn't income-generating, they hand that into a process and somebody else picks that up. But for others, that's very difficult to give away that control. They've created this business from scratch. It's almost like their baby and they can't give it away and relinquish that control. But certainly from some of our most successful members, whether that's Jared or Philip or Adeline or Tay or James, hundreds of members that we've seen go through this process, the ones that really make the biggest difference to their own business and their lifestyle, crucially as well, is the ones that can relinquish control, manage their time effectively and get leverage by outsourcing the day-to-day tasks that aren't generating income. And that's where a lot of people, I think, fail. So if you can take something from this episode, it's to be able to relinquish control, be able to get leverage by bringing the right people in to do the right tasks. And crucially, being adaptable to notice when this needs to be done. So on that point of adaptability, Lewis, have you noticed that as well is sort of a crucial thing that entrepreneurs need to be able to have as part of their arsenal?
Yeah, adaptability is definitely crucial. I mean, we're always discussing the latest trends and shifts inside our masterclass community. We're always talking about what's hot in the world of digital marketing, e-commerce, entrepreneurship. And the thing that the top achievers do that separates them from the middle achievers, we'll call it, is that they're able to separate the signal from the noise. So that when they hear a new shiny new tactic, they kind of put it through like a mental framework and a process, and they think, firstly, what is it? Is it important? Is it important to me? And if so, how can I harness it? And then move on, once they've answered those questions. And so if it's not important and it's just a distraction, then they're very good at just leaving it alone and keeping it simple. Just because there's some new shiny AI tool out there that does something, if it's not maybe ready yet, or it's not something that you are ready to implement into your business, and you think, actually, this is just going to take away from the hundreds of thousands of pounds in sales I could make if I just focused my time on doing the thing, and keeping it really simple, then perhaps they just ignore it and put it to the sideline for now. But if it's something that works, others are talking about, they've seen other people get great results with, and that maybe they don't want to be the guinea pig, they just think, I'll use it when it's ready, then that's when they take action usually. So if that's implementing a new Shopify app, or if there's a new finance provider that people are talking about in our community, whatever the topic of discussion is, they'll kind of hone in on the ones that are relevant, and you'll see them just silently take action. It's funny, they don't shout about it. They don't, hey, I've just installed this app and I want to, because doing that is you're getting your validation from other people, and you're kind of masking the fact that you're not taking action by just publicizing it. They're usually just these like silent ninjas that just take the tactics, implement them, and then they're making money out of them within a week. And like you don't even realize that they're doing it. So I think that's part of it, where they're just continuously willing to learn, adapt, filter out the noise. And continuous learning is part of their daily journey. It's just like you got to water a plant to grow. Their business needs new knowledge to continue to flourish as well. So it's always making sure that they're learning themselves. But also, interestingly, they're often the ones that give the most back as well to the community. So they're often helping. They're the ones where someone posts, I'm stuck, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z. They'll jump in and say, we had somebody the other day, I think a member of ours, Philip, who we'll speak to on the podcast soon, and jumped in and said, let me jump on a quick Zoom call with you. It was kind of like late in the evening, jumped on a Zoom call with another one of our members, helped her through the store setup step that she was stuck on. And he's flying and making all kinds of sales at the moment. And so it's that kind of mentality and that personality type that we try to look for when people apply to be part of our program. Because if we can build a community full of givers and not just takers like that, then it builds for an incredible culture, as well as everybody succeeding along the way as well.
It does. And now we've got a community where everyone gets lifted because everyone's there to help each other out. It's amazing to see, especially that level of support. And I think what is clear, and it all comes back to the mindset that we discussed earlier, as you said, is that they celebrate the mistakes, they have the positive attitude, and that continuous ability to learn, no matter what's happening in their business at the time, allows them to keep leveling up day after day, month after month, until they get to some really incredible success that we've seen in the masterclass. So a key point that many people start an e-commerce business for in the first place is often to get more time with their family, to get time back so they can have an income coming in from an e-commerce business, but to have an incredible personal life as well. How do you think the top achievers are able to balance growing a business with their personal life?
Very simply, they set clear boundaries. They ensure that the work doesn't consume their personal life. And that can be difficult to do when we talked about, you're passionate about your work and it doesn't feel like work. Suddenly it starts to creep into your personal life. And so something that I still challenged by to this day, like knowing where that boundary is. But effective scheduling and time management are tools that they would use to find that balance. And so, for example, blocking out the morning and evening time in your calendar, and then just looking at the white space in the calendar in the meantime and thinking, okay, what are the most important tasks that I need to take care of here? And then batching those tasks into blocks rather than just sitting down, opening up the laptop, opening the email inbox, and then letting that dictate their day. That's probably the worst way to begin your day. It's like when you're tired and you open up social media on your phone, TikTok's probably the worst one for this. It seems to have the most addictive algorithm. And you're just like scrolling through to kill some time. And before you know it, you look at the clock and you're like an hour in. You think, where's the last hour of my life gone? I was just like, my day's been hijacked. My attention's been hijacked. And so don't let that happen to you by opening the inbox. Know and write out your most important tasks and then just start working your way through them. Use your time effectively. The other thing I've noticed as well is that they often will involve their family and their loved ones in their business journey, whether that's actually working in partnership with them or just having an aligned shared vision, creating that shared vision. So my wife, Becky, helps with things in my businesses wherever I need her to, because she understands them from the ground up. And she knows that the reason that they exist is both to help others, so our members of the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass, but also our customers on the e-commerce side as well. So that part, but it's also to support our family in the long term, right? She knows that the long-term benefit of the businesses succeeding is for us to be able to live and thrive as a family too. So yeah, I think that's important. It's probably not a must, but that's just another trait that we recognize and see happening again and again.
It's a fascinating thread that we've seen throughout is often when people get their families on board with their goals, it really helps them. And I know definitely in your story that it pushed you on to success as well. So we've covered a lot of things there in today's episode, what we've noticed top achievers do to achieve the success that they do. So there's plenty there. But for our listeners, so they know exactly what the next steps to take, what would you suggest they do after following and listening to this episode?
One of the best ways and the best things that you can do to start off with is just take a piece of paper and write out your vision for where you want to be in 12 months or in 3 years with this new business that you're considering creating. Because once you've done that, it will bring it to life. And then you'll find yourself starting to take actions towards those goals once they're written out. There's something about writing them out that really brings them into reality. And then once you have that, don't make the same mistake I did and risk going too far down the wrong path like I did with the candle idea that I told you about. Instead, educate yourself, because knowledge is power. So try and learn from other people's mistakes so that you don't have to make them for yourself. I've written a book detailing the steps on exactly how to grow a successful e-commerce business, and that's a great place to start. It's the Home Turf Advantage book, and you can visit htabook.com to pick up your copy of that today. Just a quick heads up, if you'd like to share your questions, stories, successes, or challenges, you can email us directly at podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. And you never know, we might even feature you on the next podcast episode.
Also, if you want access to today's show notes or any of the resources we've mentioned in the episode today, then head over to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast. We also have a small favour to ask of you. If you enjoyed the show so far, you could take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice.
You wouldn't believe how much your reviews help us grow the podcast. We'll even read out some of our favourites on the next episode. So if you want to be featured on the show, please do go ahead and leave us a review today. Thanks so much for your support. We really couldn't do it without you, and we absolutely love hearing what you think of the podcast.
Now let's answer a question that we've had in from a listener of the podcast. So thank you to Vilac for getting your question in. Remember, if you want your questions answered on the podcast, then all you need to do is email us. It's podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. That's exactly what Vilac has done. And he has asked a long question, but I'll shorten it so you can really get to the heart of the question, Lewis. So he said, I'm considering starting my own e-commerce business, but I'm worried about the startup costs. How much would I need to invest, and what are the first steps in overcoming this fear of cost?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for your question, Vilac. So I think it's important to remember that dropshipping is one of the most affordable business models to start, especially when you compare it to the more traditional business models of retail or other e-commerce methods, even things like Amazon FBA, where you're having to buy in tens of thousands of pounds worth of stock. So it's definitely, I mean, you're starting the race with a head start here, because you're not burdened by the usual hefty initial expenses like stock or physical storefront. So that means that you don't need the huge capital outlay initially. And also, or what a lot of businesses will do is just go into huge amounts of debt to start with. And I just think that's a big risk, right? So yeah, none of that stuff. You don't part with any money for a stock until a customer has already paid you that money for the item. So it's a great way of doing things for people who don't have hundreds of thousands of pounds to put into their business. I should have mentioned as well that the importance of viewing these initial costs, though, that you do have, because there will be some costs to get started, are as an investment rather than just an expense. So this investment is in your future. It's your potential for financial freedom. I'd much rather spend a little bit of money now if it meant me never having to work a job again for the rest of my life and have to work a lot of time for a little bit of money continuously for the next 40 years of my career. And then the other thing is the value as well of following a proven path is incredible to keep startup costs minimized and increase your chances of success, to address your concern, Vilak. So of course, I'd recommend the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass, because it's not just another online course, like there are so many of those out there, right? Instead, it's a comprehensive mentorship program that provides the step-by-step guidance. So it provides 30 plus hours of tutorial videos, over the shoulder guidance, but it also gives you that community and that comprehensive mentorship that gives you the guidance and support from other people who are on the journey with you until you're successfully up and running and making high ticket sales. And we really have the most supportive and welcoming community. We've built a great culture in there. Everyone's spurring each other on. So if you do get stuck, which at some point you just got to accept you will have other people there by your side who you can rely on to seek that help when you inevitably need it. And the investment isn't a one size fits all. There are different options available depending on each individual's circumstances. But you can be sure that we are the real deal, because we're now one of the highest rated e-commerce training companies in the UK, according to Trustpilot. I'd first suggest starting with my book at htabook.com, because that's just a low-cost way to begin understanding dropshipping. And definitely after you've finished with this episode, line up episode 30 of the Dropship Unlocked podcast, which is titled, How Much Money Do You Need to Start Dropshipping? And that will give you much more detailed insights into startup costs. So I hope that helps, Vilak.
Yes, thank you, Lewis. Great question, Vilak. That's something that I think a lot of people have on their mind, but I'm glad you've cleared that one up for us today, Lewis. So now we can highlight a recent review that we've had in for the podcast. So a big thank you to Josh for sharing your thoughts in the Q&A section underneath a Spotify episode, which was episode 22, which is all about how to sign UK dropshipping suppliers. And Josh said, I recently took the leap to join the masterclass and it's fantastic. I'm in week 3 and I'm enjoying every bit. So thank you, Josh, for your review, not just for the podcast, but also for the masterclass as well. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks so much for your review, Josh. We're really glad to hear that you've been enjoying the podcast, and also welcome to the masterclass. Great to have you aboard. If you found value in today's episode about the traits of successful dropshippers and our top achievers, then we'd love to hear from you. Leaving a review on your preferred podcast platform is an easy way to support us. And if you've tuned in on YouTube, feel free to drop a comment below. We might even feature your thoughts on our next episode. And as we wrap up today's episode, why not share this with someone in your circle? Maybe you know someone who's an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to get started in business. Well, sharing this discussion on the habits and strategies of the top achievers in e-commerce could be the nudge that they need. So it's not just about sharing information, it's about sparking inspiration for the journey to financial and time freedom.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you found the discussion both inspiring and entertaining.
If you're ready to begin your own high-ticket dropshipping journey, then here's what to do next. I've taken all of the years of my own experience, both in running my e-commerce businesses and teaching hundreds of others how to do the same, and I've condensed it all into my book, The Home Turf Advantage. It's your comprehensive guide designed to help you create your own e-commerce business. And you can grab your copy today at htabook.com.
Stay connected by subscribing to the podcast. This way you'll never miss an episode packed with valuable insights. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review. Your feedback motivates us and we love sharing our favourite reviews on future episodes.
And thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We really appreciate you and we look forward to sharing more high-ticket dropshipping insights with you on our next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.